Iran is an unsafe country. End discrimination between asylum seekers. The right of asylum seekers fleeing from the clutches of dictatorial regimes and violating human rights is the most legitimate right of every human being on this planet. And the request of the recognition of the right by signatory countries of the 1951 Geneva Convention is a matter of course, and acceptations that based on the criteria contained in the treating the convention without discrimination and double standard is still a reasonable and a human expectation. Based on the observation and experience of the members and activists of the International Organization of Iranian Refugees, Bimarz, after 2017, until now, the process of consideration, the case of refugees, including Iranian refugees, including political, religious, ethnic, gender, and atheist, has not been carefully investigated by the Immigration Department. The German BAMF and also the immigration courts have ignored the facts and documents which were provided by the applicants. Biased behavior and unfair and inhuman decision of the German immigration authorities about the case of the mainly Iranian and the Kurdish refugees have put a pressure on the refugees to such an extent that they are unable to breathe. Political and religious asylum seekers in Germany have faced the closure of their political cases, and if they are sent back to Iran, they will face the risk of execution. But the relevant German authorities even try to force those people to go to the consulate of the government that want to kill these asylum seekers to verify their identity. Those agencies or consulates are the same centers that plan to assassinate the Iranian opponents of the Islamic regime in Europe. A clear example of that is Asadullah Asadi, an Iranian diplomat who, at the head of a team of hired Iranian because of the wind. A clear example of that, Asadullah Asadi, as Iranian diplomat who at the head of a team of hired Iranian mercenaries living in Europe, planned to bomb and assassinate a group of Iranian opposition, and fortunately, he was arrested in Belgium before doing the terroristic act. Mental pressure on asylum seekers have caused physical and mental illness, which can be mentioned in only one example, the suicide, the self-immolation of an Iranian trans woman, Ella, whose case was closed despite the danger to her life in Iran. and the only solution was to end her full of discrimination and inequality life. Millions of Iranians have been forced to leave Iran since the Islamic monster came to power for various reasons, and have settled from Australia to North America and Europe. Millions of Iranian refugees are systematically humiliated and oppressed because of the deprivation of their political and civil liberties, because of their religious and national minority. The fascist treatment of the Baha'i is a clear example of the crime against the religious minority. Discrimination and systematic killing and discrimination against the people of Balochistan and the people of Kurdistan, and increase in execution in this area are a sign of discrimination and the national oppression of these areas. Millions of Iranian women suffer from the sexual apartheid, and a full-scale war has been imposed on the half of society since the beginning of the black religious rule, and dozens of the women fighters are imprisoned. Miss Sepide Reshno, Sepide Qolian, Zainab Jalali are clear example of the brutality and lawlessness and systematic government torture against the women, and despite this, they force them to confess with torture. Leila Hosseinzadeh, an anthropology student, is in prison despite her severe illness. Narges Mohammadi, Narges Mohammadi, and etc. In the Islamic Republic, no one is safe, and no dissenting voice is raised. They arrested the workers and create scenarios of them, and the struggling teacher is a part of the regime streak. It is one of the cinematographs and the director such as Muhammad Rasulov, Jafar Panahi, and other examples of the violence of Islamic Republic. In Iran, under the Islamic rules, the struggle of the teachers for free education and increasing the salary and the ranking and the creating a teachers' trade union is a crime and is recognized as a security threat. And for this reason, Iran has the largest prison for the teachers, women, workers, political and civil activists and filmmakers. No critical person feels safe. For this reason, and thousands of other reasons, Iran is one of the most insecure countries in the world and has the highest number of executions in relation to its population. The current president of Iran, Ebrahim Raisi, has been promoted from being a member of the death board in the 1918s to head of the death cabinet right now. Arresting commuted writer in Iran is as old as this regime. Bektash Abtin, the man that we have here as a picture. Bektash Abtin was one of the commuted member of the Iranian writer unions who were deprived deprived of the proper medical service by the informed and planned, and finally killed him. The list of the crimes of Islamic regime in Iran beyond the scope of information. Iranian asylum seekers seek refuge in Germany and other signatory countries of the Geneva Convention from such a government in order to enjoy the security of their lives and dignified human life. But unfortunately, they will face the inhuman policies of the Ministry of Immigration of those countries. And despite waiting behind closed doors for years, they will face open discrimination and the policy of the one roof and two airs, as policy that puts Ukrainian refugees over other refugees and the refugees from war and unsafe conditions. They are given the special references and welcome, which in our opinion should include all asylum seekers, regardless of nationalities, language, and etc., rather than systematic racism being applied to them. Bimarz organizations demanding the following demands for the condition imposed to the asylum seekers. Number one, we demand a review and reconsideration of the ruling issues by the German Immigration Office regarding Iranian asylum seekers. Two, due to more than 40 cases of the killing, discrimination, recognition of Iran as an unsafe country, guaranteeing the right of the asylum to all the fugitives of the Islamic hell, recognizing the identity cards presented by the asylum seekers and ending their forced sending to the consulates of the Islamic regime, demanding immediate attention to the demands of asylum seekers, including the issuance of the working permit, benefiting from the medical service, right to education, professional education, and suitable environment for living. The International Organization of Iranian Refugees, Bimarz, called all Iranian refugees and other refugees as well to unity and solidarity around the world about and other demands. We also expecting full support from the Iranian and non-Iranian organizations and the political parties. Unity and solidarity and organizing around basic and human demands are the guarantee of our victory. The International Organization of Iranian Refugees, Bimarz, West Germany. Thank you.